एयरफोर्स के हैं और फिर आप PhD ले लिया. अब तो as my Hindi teacher used to tell me, भिन्न भिन्न रंगीले हैं.
Sir, I was a soldier by profession, but academician at heart.
अच्छा.
Like I have seen your profile. You are a thought leader and an industry manager. I should say industry leader. But at heart, you're a scholar. I can see. I've seen your books and all. So probably you have worked equivalent to 2 PhD. The quality of the work which you have produced.
लेकिन यही तो अलग चीज है. आपको PhD मिला, मुझे कोई देता भी नहीं, ना पूछता भी है.
Sir, it's just passion, you know. And the passion started when I was doing my BTech at Thapar. So we had a professor who had gone to Roorkee, and they said nobody can do PhD in electrical engineering because whatever's supposed to be discovered has already been invented or discovered. So I said, let me make a try. And that's how I landed up. And
yours IIT Kharagpur journey was primarily on electrical engineering or mechanical?
Well, in those days, they started a new thing. It was called new at that time. Now it's the most popular course called electronics.
Electronics. This is way back, maybe 1960s, right?
So, आपके थापर इंस्टीट्यूट के एक alumni अभी global president हो गए हैं, CEO of Honeywell. आपको मालूम है?
Sir, Thapar's alumni have been doing really very well. And when I was there in Thapar, I did my BTech from there. We just had 3 engineering college: Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, Ludhiana, and Thapar. So we have some of the very outstanding technocrats from there. So I didn't know about the Honeywell thing.
Yours is called Thapar Institute of Technology?
Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology. Now it's in Thapar University.
I've been there. I've gotten the convocation address when Amrinder Singh came.
Okay. That's great, sir. That's great.
That must be about, I don't know, 15 years ago.
Actually, I have been following you since the president of IMA, where we've been there. You have been to Lucknow, I think maybe 12 or 13 years back, maybe 15, 16 years back when we met at the. I mean, it's off track question. I see the same charm on your face, which used to be 20 years back. So I think you practice a lot of yoga or some nature or something like that.
मैं छोटा सा भौरा हूँ, घूमते रहते हैं, भ्रमण में है.
This is the reason actually. After having served for 17 years with the Tata Sons in a high-profile job, still keeping the charm and that's fantastic. Absolutely wonderful.
आपका तो नाम ही जोशी है. I'm trying to become Joshi.
So
okay, we can get started.
We can start, ma'am. So we is formally starting the event, sir, with the introduction, and then over to you as far as ma'am.
Right, sir.
A very good afternoon. Namaskar, sir. Welcome to the campus of Amity University, Lucknow campus.
Namaskar.
I, Dr. Shalini Agarwal, on behalf of Amity family, extend a cordial welcome to you to the second session of the CXO talk show series. The idea behind organizing this event was to create a forum where our students, faculties, and researchers could see how shapers of business are influencing the market, and the students get to know, to learn how to drive the changes instead of being driven by them. So your profile and your illustrious career does not require a big introduction. I just want to say that today our students and our faculty members want to see the world through the 6 lenses that you have described in your book, the 6 lenses. To my audience, I would like to say that Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan is the CEO of the company The Mind Works and former director of Tata Sons. He has an illustrious career and he was working in India, the UK, and Saudi Arabia. And he has been a tremendous inspirational and instructional speaker and authored 17 books. His wisdom, his motivation has seen companies turning concepts into ideas and then models and prototypes. So welcome to the university campus once again. I would now request our Pro-Vice Chancellor, Wing Commander Dr. Anil Kumar, to formally introduce the audience about the association, academic association of Amity University with Tata Group, and how he is bringing about changes in the academic models of the university so that students disrupt themselves, learn new things, so that they remain relevant for a longer time. Thank you, sir. Sir, please.
Most respected Gopalakrishnan sir, a very warm welcome online to Amity University Lucknow campus and to this CXO series. And currently we are handling discourse on the topic VUCA being countered by agility as a tool. Sir, in Amity University, Lucknow campus, we have been making a lot of effort to have a very active interface with the industry and especially with the Tata Group. I'm delighted to tell you, sir, that this discourse will be heard by 25 selected engineers from Tata plant who are doing MTech in electrical vehicle technology with us. We signed an MOU with Tata Group for offering this advanced vehicle mobility program. And well, we are training technocrats, we are training managers, but then I personally feel the interaction CXO series would really produce the leaders, the thought leaders who would steer industry forward in so-called VUCA world. We are all aware that the current challenges of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity have been the major drivers of the technology solutions for quite some time. But there has been a change in the recent past, I would say in last a decade. With the advent of AI, the technology itself has been changing at a very, very fast pace. With the introduction of tools like ChatGPT-3, and if one has heard the new bench introduced by Microsoft, the way we look at the industrial growth and the industry progress would be greatly impacted. Imagine a scenario wherein a lot of inputs can come from very, very advanced intelligent tools on board that were just unimaginable. Would that change the profile of the leaders or their working style is a big question. Would leaders communicate through these advanced tools to have a greater impact? How would their styles change? And can VUCA be handled more effectively? These tools being part of the agility spectrum. Towards this, sir, we would like to have your views, but we know one thing for very sure. There are certain skills which will not be replaced by the technology that stalwarts like you represent. Things such as complex problem solving, things such as empathy, things such as motivation, and many other skills that you have talked about in your 17 books. So we look forward to a very interesting, motivating discourse on this topic of immense interest. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Wing Commander Ji. I hope you can see me and hear me. I want to thank Amity Lucknow for it. Is it okay? Should I speak now, madam?
Yes, sir. You may now speak, sir.
Okay.
We are
अध्यापिका के आज्ञा के बगैर मैं कैसे स्टार्ट करूं, इसलिए मैंने थोड़ा रोक लिया. I don't want to speak for 45 minutes, if I can help it. So what I thought would be much more interesting if it is acceptable to you, and I have been told by your director that that is the right way to do it. I'll make a few key points for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And then I will invite discussion, questions. I don't have the answer to every question, but amongst all of us, we'll try to agree what we don't have an answer to anyway. The title I've given for this is Agility as a response to VUCA. I thought of VUCA because you're called VUCA University or something like that, right? I saw some books on VUCA, and all of you know the origin of where this word came from, VUCA. Here the VUCA modern avatar, it's called Manoj Joshi. And for me, in the era of artificial intelligence, the most important banker I have to risk mitigate is natural intelligence. As the wing commander said, that will never go away. But I find amongst many technologists, and they are preaching to the younger people, that the whole world will be turned upside down. It will become VUCA because of technology. And with respect, I would say that, right from the beginning, when human beings learned, Homo sapiens learned to stand on 2 feet, there have been 2 strong influences in the way they thought, behaved, and acted. One was rationality. The second was intuition. Since I've written a book on intuition, I don't want to go off into what intuition is, but approximately, if you have a definition of intuition as something that is not supported by rationality, you get the picture. And I had argued there in that book that one of the dangers, and I wrote that book only about 13, 14 years ago. At that time, we didn't know the word artificial intelligence. I said, one of the dangers is we think technology is a solution to everything. And in our thought, behavior, and action space, whereas our ancestors, say 500 years ago, were largely driven by intuition and very little by rationality, maybe 60-70% intuition and 20-30% rationality. Nowadays, we've turned it the other way around. We are relying 60-70% on rationality and 20-30% on intuition. And the way people are unleashing all this new technology gives young people an impression which I consider to be incorrect, that we are gradually moving to a 90-10. I want to emphasize that the place for human intuition will never go. And neither will it ever come down below, 10, 15, 20%, because at the end of the day, the world is too complex for us to manage through machines and algorithms. So the overarching message I would like to leave you is you will be assailed with these. Some of you may join a technology company and you will inflict it on other people. By all means, rejoice in the availability of technology, but always be humbled by the fact that technology can play a role of 50, 60, 70% in decision making. There'll never be a substitute for the 20, 30, 40% of intuition. I would like to emphasize that the word intuition gives the impression of some mysterious, Baba insight into the future. Nobody has an insight into the future. Anybody who can tell you that I can predict the future, you can discount him. But what happens really is there are human values. So I like to call it intuition, I'm calling human values. Rationality, I'm calling rational values. And human values include words like compassion, like empathy. It has been alluded to already by the wing commander. So I'm not going to spend my time talking about that. But it's like a shock absorber. You may be going on a very bumpy road, since there are some of my former colleagues of Tata Motors here. You may be designing a shock absorber for a very rough road, but you will always have to have, you may be designing a suspension system for a very rough road, but you'll always have a shock absorber. And the design of the shock absorber, that becomes very important. So I have chosen to talk about agility, and I want to use the metaphor of the human body and an organization. The organization can be a company, it can be an institution like your own institution, it can be a university, it can be a government department, it may be the ministry, it could be anything. Now, there are many similarities between the human body and the organization. In fact, I consider the organization, read company, institution, university, to be a human. It is born, it grows into maturity, It gets old and it starts to wither away at some stage. You can see it all around you. And when you talk of a human body, think of your grandfather at home. Since I'm talking to very young people, I think it's appropriate to say grandfather. You will notice that he's getting on in years, his agility is lower than it was. That's natural biological process. He can't reverse it, but he can retard it. And you can not reverse the aging of an organization, but you can retard its aging. If you go to B.K.S. Iyengar, who is the greatest yoga expert we've had in India, or even Baba Ramdev, who's still alive, B.K.S. Iyengar is dead and gone, they will tell you how to make your body supple. And I'm making a very general point here for the purpose of our discussion, rather than, I'm not a yoga expert by any means. It is done in three ways. If you use your common sense, you'll come to the same answer. First is you immunize the body and make it disciplined. From the time a baby is born, even when it's older, all of us have had vaccine shots for COVID, and God forbid tomorrow there's something else, we will have a vaccine shot for that. So you immunize the body and you have discipline, diet, weight control, healthy habits, good sleep, etc. The second thing that people who are aging, people like myself, will do is to strengthen our muscles, because your muscles naturally atrophy as you grow older. And the same thing happens to companies. Their muscles start to atrophy. It is not enough to just have discipline and keep your body supple. You have to strengthen your muscles, because the muscles fall down in their potency as you get older, and you have to lift some light weights and do certain things. And the third and the last thing that we do is to strengthen your joints, because our kamar mein dard hai, pair mein dard hai, ghutne mein dard hai, all this happens with old age. I call it the tribology of joints. Tribology is a scientific word. You're an engineering college, I think, Amity University, or you have an engineering department. So any professor can tell you what is tribology. Tribology is the act of lubricating parts which are getting frictional in their contact. So in simple terminology, it's lubricants. Tata Motors, people will be using tribology to design the ball bearings and the various parts which are in contact, piston rings and so on and so forth. So I want to talk to you, maybe 5-7 minutes each. First on immunization and discipline. Second on muscle strengthening, and third on joint strengthening. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about the human body. I'm going to talk about an organization. Now, in a human body, you do a vaccination. And I think organizations don't pay enough attention. They pay attention, but not enough attention to what I call vaccinating the organization. If you vaccinate a human being, a child, because there is typhoid, there is measles, there is mumps, all these are in the air. These are invisible assailants of the human body. COVID-19 is another such assailant. And when there are invisible assailants, they can get into your body, affect you, and impair you. If you talk to an immunologist, he will tell you that there are 3 layers in the human body. And I want to apply that same principle to an organization. What are those 3 layers? The 3 layers are that the invisible object first has an obstacle in the form of your physical layer, your skin. It has to penetrate the skin to get inside. And many of them get rejected there. Actually, if you look at the human body, it's a marvel that it exists at all. It's just a marvel of God or nature, whatever you want to call it, because there are so many assailants all around our body that the human race ought to have been dead long ago. So the first is the physical layer. And in a company, the equivalent of the physical layer is the employee engagement. The employee engagement of a company, if you walk into an office, halchal hai, is there activity? Are people looking happy and smiling? I'm not looking for some some nirvana where something perfect is happening. But I have been into offices, and you have been into offices where you feel it's like a smashan. Everybody is grumpy, doing their own work, or they are arguing and fighting with each other, or those are the extreme cases. More likely, they are grunting and talking minimum to each other. It's not whether they are talking or not, but whether work is getting done. I remember when I used to travel a lot, I used to go to Egypt, and I have to go to change your airline ticket or something. You go to an airline office in Egypt in those days, I was 30, 40 years ago. And there are a lot of women sitting there, but nothing seems to be getting done. As a customer, you'll be sitting there for a long time because they'll be talking to each other in Arabic. And you can see that there is energy, but it's not engagement. Now, very few companies measure engagement. I don't know if Amity teaches you how to measure employee engagement. You have an HR department, I'm sure they can tell you. But it's worthwhile you're applying your mind and talking to the appropriate professor, because employee engagement is like your blood pressure. You can measure it. I don't want you to become paranoid about it. There are some people who take their blood pressure every hour. That's not necessary. But at least once a day, if you're getting old, you must take your blood pressure or whichever parameter in your body. But many companies don't even know what their employee engagement is. They don't even know the definition of employee engagement. Because if a virus attacks the company from outside, and the virus can be competitive misinformation, example. The virus can be causing dissonance, causing a group of people to live together. Those are all what I call invisible. Then it's the employee engagement that protects you as the first layer. The second layer that comes is what is called an innate layer, a genetic layer. That is different for each of us. My genes are different from yours and Professor Joshi's genes. So we have inherited those from our ancestors. I may be prone to diabetes, you may be prone to blood pressure. That will vary from person to person. But that's the second stage at which the virus has to penetrate. So virus has to pass three obstacles. The first is the physical layer, the second is the innate layer. And if you look at what is the equivalent of the innate layer in the organization, it corresponds to what is called organization culture. I'm sure you have a subject in your university for OB, as they call it, or BS, depending on how Amity calls it. It's about behavioral science. People will talk about organization culture. I think if you talk to that particular professor and try to understand what does organization culture mean and how does it protect you. And the most remarkable example that I have seen of organization culture is when the terrorist attacks Taj Hotel back in 2008. I mean, we were there in Bombay. It was happening under our nose. Nobody expected it. It was VUCA in the sense, it was not a contingency for which anybody could plan that terrorists will come with their machine guns and be firing all over the place. But simple meaning frontline staff who were so committed. We had been teaching them in their training and so on. My colleagues in the hotel side, Atithi Devo Bhava, and take care of your guests. But when this started happening, at risk to their own lives, they protected all the. We lost a lot of lives, but it could have been much worse. It's a long story. There's a case study on Taj, which your university can access and you can study it. But if you want an exemplary, publicly available data on what exactly it means to have that genetic layer. And when I inquired, I was very curious. I found that Taj said, we will recruit ordinary people from ordinary backgrounds. They didn't go to IIM, Ahmedabad, MIT University and choose gold medalists because the jobs were of the nature of being in the reception or being in the guest relations department. And they recruited people from what in our terminology we call class 3, class 4 towns, and gave them some soft skills and made wonderful people by imparting the innate culture of the Taj to them. Atithi Devo Bhava. It was no more a slogan. It was, and I can tell you, I can speak for another 2 hours on it, but I won't do that. The third layer If it gets through the physical layer and then the innate layer, then comes what is called the adaptive layer. If any of you has a doctor, immunologist in your family, if you talk to that person, he or she will be impressed that you know so much about immunology. The third layer is adaptive layer. It's only after COVID or measles gets past the adaptive layer that it can affect the body. So there are three gatekeepers, three chowkidars, which are holding your body together. And what is the adaptive layer? It is the employee positivity. Again, like employee engagement, like organization culture, there's a way to measure positivity. Professor Barbara Friedman has done a lot of work. Again, your OB, BS faculty will be able to guide you. But try to understand what is employee positivity, because in my experience, the positivity to negativity ratio should be 3 or above. Just like you say, for your height, your weight should be 75 kilos or 65 kilos. In the same way, I'm telling you, the positivity ratio to the negativity ratio should be 3:1. If it becomes a 4:1, that's good. But if it becomes 2:1 or 1:1, then your immune system has become weak. So I want you to think that exactly like the human body, the organization or the company can prepare against VUCA and have agility by thinking about the people vaccine, to give people that feeling of positivity, engagement, culture. A lot more effort has to be made by company leadership so that their company is prepared for the VUCA events that come. And I gave you the example of the Taj, which is perhaps the most dramatic, but it comes on a day-to-day basis. And then just like the aging body, after middle age, you do diet control, you do weight control. In the same way, you tend to acquire fat in an organization. A few extra people here, a few extra people there. You don't measure the productivity. And one of the things that I've found extremely useful in my career, and in most of the companies where I have been associated, I have found this happening. They give it different names, but annually they do what is called a cost erosion program. My colleagues who are from Tata Motors, maybe on this seminar, can tell you about it. I hope they're still doing it. I have retired 8 years ago, but they had an annual program of cost erosion, shaving off 1 or 2% by trying to make the organization more productive. And the important thing is, an annual cost erosion program compounds. It makes you lean and efficient. It's just like some people put on 5 kilos of weight, then they'll get off sweets and a drink and then lose 5 kilos. That's no good. If you keep exercising regularly, hold your weight at 75 kilos, that's good. And that's what companies should aim to do. So all this is concerned with immunization and discipline, which is the first thing I wanted to talk about. There are two others that I want to talk about. One is called muscle strengthening and one is called joints strengthening. Again, taking the metaphor from the human body. Now, what does muscle strengthening mean? Sometimes people say, I just do my yoga in the morning, should I not be all right? Well, I'm afraid it's not good enough. It's okay, it's better than not doing yoga at all. But you have to strengthen your muscles because your muscles start to atrophy with age. And the same thing happens to companies. And muscles are the things that give the organization energy. And if an atrophy of the muscles. So what I have found useful in the organizations where I work is to give people across the company, across departments, not just the production department or the sales department or the marketing department, stretch goals. Stretch goals, I use the word stretch goals, that word is used in companies because it stretches your muscles. So, at my age, I do light weights, 3 kilos, maybe 10 times. Maybe if I was 25 years younger, I might do 5 kilos. If I was 50 years younger, I might lift 50 bigger weights. But that's enough to do weights, light weights. And I've also found if you want to strengthen your muscles, it is a good practice. Again, many companies don't do it, to adopt an excellence model. You may ask me, I'm assuming they're all students of the age of 23 to 26 age group, Manojji?
Yeah.
So you may ask me, what's an excellence model? There are a number of excellence models available. Again, your teachers, your professors will be able to guide you. I would encourage you to do some offline reading. Offline meaning nobody's going to run a class for you on this. But an excellence model, for example, some people do Six Sigma, some people do Kaizen, some people do Malcolm Baldrige model, some people do CMM in a software company. Frankly, it doesn't matter whether you do one or the other. You choose one which is right for your industry and for your company. But the advantage of an excellence model is like an annual medical checkup. Now, why do you need an annual medical checkup? When you're 22, 23, you think it's a waste of time. When you're 35, 40, you say, hey, it's suddenly showing up things that I never thought are happening. And when you're 60, you'll say, thank God I'm doing an annual medical checkup, because it measures your pulse rate, it measures the amount of potassium, calcium. An excellence model forces you to make sure that you are on the treadmill, keeping up the fitness regime that you owe to yourself. So muscle strengthening is very important. It is not enough to have lax muscles and good weight control and immune system. And the last one is strengthening of joints. It is true that we have body parts which are rubbing against each other. In your back, in your front, in your thigh, in your knee, in your elbow. I don't want to give a medical sort of lecture on it. And there is lubrication there. That's why I call it tribology. And when you exercise your joints, you know very well that the lubrication system or the tribology is kept very active. Now, in the equivalent in a company is that as a company ages or is assailed by VUCA events, it is the interface between departments that becomes to creak. The production department has become a big dada by himself, or the purchasing department has become a big dada, or the marketing department throws his weight around. It's the junction, it's not that department alone. If every departmental head kept his little department fit, the company as a whole will still not have strengthening of the joints. Because the joints have to be strengthened by the top leadership. And I want to just tell you a little story, which is I always find very interesting. Strengthening of the joints and interface between departments happens through communication. We underestimate the value of communication. Bug karte rehte hai, bolte hai na, you keep talking to each other. Talking in a civilized way, by the way, not like they do on television every evening. That's not talking, that is shouting at each other. I would strongly recommend you don't undertake that activity unless you become a television anchor, in which case it's part of your job. Talking means listening. And we underestimate the value of this. I want to tell you a little story of two birds that used to come to the English garden every summer. The English have a very small summer, so they value it when they sit in their garden. One is called the blue jay and one is called the red robin. Both were from the crow family. They were about the same size. From 1910 or something till 1950, they used to keep track of their size, their anatomy, their weight. I don't know why. But I suppose bird researchers were doing their bit. But suddenly after 1950, their bodies diverged. And the blue jay became a bigger and heavier animal by 10-15%. It did become double its size compared to the red robin. And so it's like having children in your house and suddenly one son has grown much taller than the other. They're eating the same diet, eating the same food. And the father wonders why that is so. It could be genetic. But here they found something very interesting. The blue jay is a very social bird. It's a very social bird. They come in groups. They seem to be talking to each other. They twitter to each other all the time. Not the destructive Twitter, but the friendly Twitter. And the red robin is like a departmental head of this department. Mera adda hai, yahan pe koi aana nahi. Now, around 1942 or 43, the system of distribution of milk changed in England, because it used to go in those open aluminum cans, like it still happens in UP, Bihar, various rural parts of India. And the bird could sit on the rim of that can and peck its beak into the fat that would come to the top. Getting some fat or nourishment was not difficult. But after 1942 or 43, milk started moving in pasteurized bottles. Pasteurized milk started moving in bottles. Now there's an aluminum cap. And the sankat arose. How do you get to the fat, the nutrition, if there's an aluminum cap? Now, one blue tit poked his head hard, poked his beak hard, and found that it punctures and then he could get the fat. Because they keep twittering to each other, he told all the others that, hey, this is the way to get it. And all of them started eating the fat because the knowledge was shared. Whereas the Red Robin said, अरे मैंने रास्ता निकाल लिया है, अब और किसी को बताना नहीं है, मैं अपने डिपार्टमेंट में रखता हूँ ये knowledge. And the Red Robins had to discover this one by one, and that wasn't easy. So after a period of 30, 40 years, their weights diverged. I found that in a company situation, to create cross-functional teams strengthens the joints. And I will mention only two examples and not in any detail because of time. I would like to stop now and invite questions. Back in 1980s, my then employer, Hindustan Lever, was very strongly threatened by a low-cost brand called Nirma. Now, that's a celebrated case study in many B schools. Maybe in Amity also they teach that particular case study. It was a VUCA moment for us. Okay, I was a young officer at that time in the company. And what we did was to find that we are working in silos. We had a technology department, a production department, we had a marketing department, we had a finance department. Each one was saying, koi bhoot hai, aa raha hai. But none of them was able to do anything about it. So we decided to pull out a smart guy from each of these. And we called them Sting. उनका कोई नाम दे दिया कुछ एक रोशन करने के लिए. Strategy to inhibit Nirma growth. That is what Sting stood for. And we said, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are the Lalaji, what would you do? And they came up with a set of solutions that nobody has thought of in Hindustan Lever, anyway. So the joints started to have tribology. And then, of course, they launched Wheel. And today, Wheel is a billion-dollar brand in Hindustan Lever. And I'm giving that as an example of how the joints can be oiled and cleaned and lubricated so that age doesn't show. Remember, Hindustan Lever and Tata are both 150 years old or 120 years old. So they are quite old people, but they are still fairly supple. Maybe not as young as Zomato and Tomato, but for their age, they are quite alive and supple. The second example I would like to give you is when I went as chairman of Unilever Arabia back in 1991, there was a VUCA environment. Saddam Hussein of Iraq had just entered Kuwait and captured Kuwait. And like it's happening in Ukraine today, everybody was talking, but he had Qabza of Kuwait. And I was sitting there as the chairman of a new company. I can't think of anything more VUCA that's happened in my life, because in the night I would find planes flying around and flashes. And of course, the whole thing was played on TV for the first time. None of us had seen a battle except people like the wing commander or people who are in the armed forces. But we saw what battle is like in real life on television screens. And my mandate from Unilever was to mount a frontal assault, to use military language, on a major competitor called Procter & Gamble. And it was very difficult for me to figure out, for me meaning my colleagues and me, how would Procter & Gamble react? हमने तो अपने अकल वाले सब प्लान बना लिए, but इसका नतीजा क्या निकलेगा? What could Procter & Gamble do? Because they had to protect their turf. So I appointed a shadow cabinet. I caught hold of three medium to high level executives, who one from marketing, one from accounts, finance, and one from technology. I said, you think you are Procter & Gamble. This is an extra job for you. आप लोग मिलके बोलिए कि जब Unilever आएगा इसको खत्म कैसे करेंगे? Because somebody is planning it there. It is not that they are waiting for the assault to begin. And by God, we got so much tribology out of it, so much of energy out of it. And indeed, one or two things that they predicted did happen, and we were well prepared for it. So the VUCA moment was managed quite well. So I'm going to stop there and summarize by saying VUCA is a reality. Don't wish it away. कोविड खत्म हो गया तो कुछ और आएगा, वो खत्म हो गया तो बैंक गिर जाएंगे, वो बैंक गिर गया तो कल कुछ और इन्फ्लेशन आ जाएगा, something will keep happening. But you have to prepare your company and your job and your role through thinking of the company like a human body, immunize it, protect it, keep the muscles and the joints lubricated, and I think that is what will give you agility. Bring the management equivalent of Baba Ramdev into your company. Don't bring the real Baba Ramdev because he is for something else, good for something else, but not for this. Thank you very much to MIT for inviting me. If you'll give me 30 seconds, I'm just going to go around the corner while you get your questions together. I'll come back. I'll just use the men's restroom and come back.
Thank you very much. Please, thank you very much. I think I've got a set of questions. I have a set of questions which I've already assembled from quite senior personalities, dignitaries, and students across. This is a very golden opportunity to interact with one of the highest authorities in the subject of Tata, and Tata Sons. It's a very extremely rare opportunity actually, who has been at the Tata boards for 17 years. So there will be some little sensitive questions that I will be putting up across, subject to your understanding on right from the Taj case, the mystery case, and the businesses that the Tata Sons has been holding in terms of Tata Motors, TCS, all the parental, the sister organizations. So it would be an interesting documentation of thoughts that will be exchanged between us and him. And as he would be we're extremely grateful actually in such a short time that he was able to take out and give us this opportunity to interact with him. So we just wait, and I have some. So most of you are from the engineering classes. Most of you are engineering. Anybody from the business school students? All are engineering students. Okay. Okay. So we'd like to see some questions that I have, which will be maneuvered to your interest. Is it so? How do I? One second. One second. Disconnected, right? No. Thank you very much. And what I'll do is summarize the session right now. And in fact, what you were interested in, some of the experience with Tata Sons and the Tata Motors case and the mystery case, and what really some snapshot. Not an issue. If I can put you from the voice mode on the phone, is it possible? Can you attend? It's possible or should it? It's okay. I think. Okay. Let me see. Let me see. Let me put in the voice mode. Let me put in the voice mode and see if you can hear me. 1 second. Can you hear me, sir?
I can.
Okay. If you speak, let me see. Can the others as well hear you? Just say hello. Let me see whether the mic system says that. Yeah, I've actually put on the mic mode. Okay. Can you hear at the back or not? No, not voice is not coming up. Okay, I have attached. No, the Indians are already ready with the jugaad, so I have clubbed the mic with the mobile, so you can you as well and others can hear. So wonderful. Before my mobile and my battery, my personal battery goes off, because thank you very much for the kindness. The lights, as you mentioned, at the place has gone off, so the systems are off. So we're putting on the voice mode for a couple of minutes to put it. So would you like to, in short, your experience in terms of agility at Tata Sense during your 17 years at the helm of affairs? Over to you, sir.
Well, I don't know if I can relate it. Yeah, not already related. I told you when realization happened in 1991. I decided it.
Right. Yes.
All my numbers.
Right.
So that's one. The second thing is very important.
Right.
One thing is data back. It is worth it. It is worth it. But that time it was here.
Right.
It will take. I think nothing. Second thing is
Right. Right. Right.
So these are the ways in which you get the freedom. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. So the one critical question which has come up, being the CEO of an organization, having served at the helm of affairs of Tata, rationality or irrationality in terms of decision making in difficult times. So how would you comment on that?
No, I would not call it rationality, but
Intuition, okay?
you know, the body, you should do rationality already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To be rational,
Mm-hmm. Right. Mhm. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
You're very young, you don't realize.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they take company A, company B, or company C.
Correct.
So like, we use like,
Right.
so I
Yes. Right. So we have, in fact, I will pick up the last question actually because we have very senior directors, senior professors from different divisions of the engineering department as well as the campus head. I mean, a message for, it applies to me as well. Message in terms of foresightedness in a very complex world that we're looking into in the next 20 years from now. How do you see foresightedness to be institutionalized or developed or harnessed by the leaders of tomorrow? Over to you, sir.
I think foresightedness and being able to read the future is highly encouraged. I'm not able to do anything in the future.
Right.
So, can imagine
Yes. Yes.
what you got में आपत्ति वगैरह देखते हुए लगता है कि कोई 30 साल में काफी वृद्धि होगी, 30 वृद्धि
Right. Right.
कभी रहेगी क्या?
Right.
सिस्टम में कहीं भी हटाने का
Thank you, sir. As I said, one of the top learnings today is in terms of the human values, the tribology that you mentioned, and the crux lies is gardening the culture of innovation. And I think in a world that we are living into, we are likely to watch more black swan events, as Nicholas Taleb says, in terms of quants. We really do not know what kind of preferable or operational future is going to be. But I think this is an interesting talk that you have taken out from your private time. We are highly indebted to you on this, sir. And as a token of love and affection, as an academic leader, we'll be sending you one of the books, the first one, the VUCA company, in which we talks about basic essay on why firms fail. So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you on a physical platform, and of course, our doctorate with you very soon. Thank you very much, sir, and have a nice day once again, sir. Bye. Bye. Thank you. So with this, हमारे लिए ताली बजा दो, थोड़ा सा लग जाएगा. Thank you very much. I tell you, the youngsters are very few in number. This is actually a lifetime opportunity. This gentleman works directly with GRD Tata's, the Tata families. All decisions that are based 40,000 crores and all lakh crores. He's a gentleman who makes crores. I wish we had that. I was anticipating. हम जब भी कोई काम करते हैं हम भूखा वाले में फंस जाते हैं तो लाइट चला गया. Otherwise, I had requested him to narrate the mystery story, the ouster of mystery, because Tata had gone into a very difficult times when mystery was brought into the system, owing from Tata, and then mitigating the risk altogether. So once again, whichever the audience I consider this the right audience, the audience which is taking care for him. And with this, I will request you, ma'am, to finish the honors of the day. But I must promise you that the team from the asset, led by Professor Opi Singh and his team, we are planning a series of events. If you permit me, I can speak that we are We are holding a session by the zonal head of ICICI Bank is going to come here on the platform on 24th. He's going to speak his specialist on UPIs, technology areas. We're also going to have an IFS officer who was responsible for the G20 presidency of the country, of India. So he's going to speak also on 24th. And we have lined up Inspector General of Police is a PhD doctorate. He was the Inspector General of Police at CRPF, responsible for the 371 application, and so it's going to be an interesting group of individuals lined up with the kind assistance and motivation of the campus head, the Vice Chancellor. So thank you very much, sir, and we continue to do a lot many activities in future. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Joshi, for your insightful words. I would now request our Vice Chancellor, sir, to address the gathering. It is said that two is a company, three is a crowd. So whosoever are left in the auditorium today, be happy that you are a close company, and whatever we are sharing is the most fruitful words that is left for the day. Okay? So, sir, please may we have it.
My dear faculty members and scholars and students who are sitting over here, you just heard one of the eminent thought leaders, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, dwelling on the subject, agility as a recourse or as a reply to VUCA world. I would tell you, we all are associated with academics, and academics is one field you can rest assured which will be shaken up by VUCA in coming few years. If you see the technology which is driving, well, let me tell you, the best a teacher can teach, the best that is available would be delivered to him online by the tools which are available. So your area of work is going to be impacted. And there are already a lot of things are being said about it. 20 skill sets which will remain irrespective of the VUCA world, wherein you can hone these skills. And I would request each one of you to please work on it, work on with your students. Let me tell you, creative problem solving, empathy, motivation as a teacher, these are the skill sets you need, which will not be replaced, which will be answer to so many things as brought in by the eminent speaker. Thank you very much for joining this CXO series. I would request each one of you sitting over here is our ambassador to listening to the best that the university has to offer. I would request you to propagate it amongst your friends, amongst your colleagues, to join the CXO series. Thank you very much.